So Rainbow Six is one of those games with an extremely high skill gap. You know, you have the high players, high level players on top, you have the low level players at the bottom, and you can pretty much tell how good somebody is just by the way they move. You know, that's how high the skill gap is on Rainbow Six. But I think a big problem with the game that people don't understand is what actually makes a good player different from a bad player. Like what quality does the good player have that the low level player doesn't? And today's video is going to be kind of an answer to that, at least my opinion on the answer. I've been playing since beta. I've been diamond, back when I had my squad and all that. So, I know a thing or two about improvement. I know a thing or two about high level gameplay. And of course I started, at the beginning with everybody else, back when everybody was bad. So I know, about bad, bad gameplay also, because I've been there. I've been on both sides. So yeah, let's discuss that. Let's see what's the deal with that. And if you're trying to improve a Rainbow Six, maybe we can find an answer onto why you're not improving, or a better way for you to improve in the long run. This video is also not going to be scripted, so I'm not going to be like super precise with the things I say, but it's going to be more of a discussion. Hopefully, those of you who do end up watching the video will leave comments down below, maybe stuff I can answer later on. But I do want to do more discussion videos like this because I feel like there are important issues in this game that have to be addressed, or questions that people might have that they might not have the answers to because maybe they haven't played enough, or maybe they haven't looked into it enough to be able to answer those questions. So yeah, let's get started. So the difference between a good player and a bad player. Now first, we're going to start off with something that I feel happened to Rainbow Six, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does happen with games that have a higher skill ceiling like this. And that is that Siege has become a very flashy game at the high level. And you might be confused on to what I mean by flashy, and it's kind of hard to explain, but let me try my best to explain it. There are a lot of unnecessary movements that are done at high level in order to look a certain way to other players, or maybe to people that are making YouTube videos. I'm sure you've seen it. A lot of the people that make YouTube videos and are well known for being good at aim and all that are people that tend to quick peek everything. They tend to kill somebody and immediately 180 and start spraying, trying to get that that clip that looks good, or maybe they even want a clip that looks sus, that way they can get people talking about them and eventually they can get more notoriety. But that's what I mean by a flashy. People will do a lot of unnecessary things to make themselves look better and to make it look like they're a lot better at the game than they might actually be. Now this happens with almost any game that has a high skill ceiling like this, because you have to master so much in Rainbow Six that you can actually put yourself apart from a low level player, and you can do these things without actually being punished if the low level player doesn't know how to punish them. And I do like this about the game. I think that that's such a cool thing that happens with a lot of these games. Another example would be Rocket League. I don't know if you guys follow Rocket League at all, but high level players will do the most unnecessary movements, the most uncommon angles to make goals that are honestly super sick to look at. And it's beautiful about this game. I think it's a good thing, like I said before. But this gives lower level players, or maybe somebody that is new to Rainbow Six, a look on the game that might not necessarily be honest to the way that Rainbow Six is played for the majority of the player base. This means that what the high level players project to lower level players is that mechanics is the most important thing to master in Rainbow Six. And don't get me wrong, they're very important. Quick leaning and good aim and all that is extremely important to be good at this game. But the problem that lower level players don't realize is that yes, you can learn to do all these things, but if you don't know when to do them, then there's no point in actually knowing how to do these techniques. Like for example, I mainly solo queue now. I might have a friend or two, so I've been in gold, I've been working my way up, and I see players that might be in a clutch situation, right? So I'm watching them and I kind of automatically judge their decision making. I know it's not a good thing, but everyone does it. And I see that they're literally spasming all over the place. They're looking at a door, they try to immediately flick to the other door, and they miss it by a little bit, and then they flick to the door that they were looking at in the first place, and they try to quick peek stuff, and they end up getting killed because not only are they making a lot of noise with all this movement, but they're not thinking about the options that the enemy has. They're just trying really hard to pull off these mechanical, techniques and peeks and all that. And that kind of ruins the clutch for them. And instead of doing that, they could be thinking logically about where the enemy could be coming from or what the enemy could be up to in order to try to clutch the round. Now, luckily for a lot of us OG players, we played back in the day when everybody was bad. Okay, I've been playing since beta, and I used to main Glass, if you can believe it or not. That's how bad people were. People didn't even know what operators were good and which ones were bad. But yeah, everybody was bad at the game for the most part, mechanically and, you know, info-wise, game sense-wise. But that's when I learned. Okay, I learned with everybody else. So I learned the basics of the game. I didn't have to worry about any flashy mechanics like that because they were really not a thing at the time. The only time they might have been around is people that brought them over from other games. But even then, I rarely ever saw quick peeking. I rarely ever saw, you know, people trying to one-tap through walls and things like that. But that's how I learned. And luckily, I was able to learn the fundamentals of Rainbow Six. And now I can do all these crazy mechanics and stuff like that because I already have the foundation that OG Rainbow Six gave me. I knew exactly how the game played. You know, I was there for every single update, so I knew what new things were being added to the game. So I have all this information that I already know, and then whenever the game was updated, I just add a little bit more information, you know. Say I know how to play the game and they add Jackal. And okay, so now I just update my whole info, and okay, my footsteps could be red. That's all I have to learn, right? I could be pinged by a Jackal. But then there's people that are new to the game that come in, say after Ying, and they have to learn everything before Ying. Like, we had to learn the basics of the game. We learned 8 operators right at the beginning. Maybe you might have learned a little bit more if you came in a little bit later, but these people have to learn like 50 operators, and that's insane because I mean, you know, how are people gonna learn that much that fast? You know, it's a lot of information, so people tend to lack on that, and that's something that I've noticed. You know, like the example I gave about the player clutching, I see that a lot where people try to overuse mechanics and look like a good player, but they don't know they're being flanked, right? Or they don't know that there's a rotate next to them, or they're just unaware of things that are much needed info to be good at the game. And people do not realize that, and I never see anybody talking about that either. People just talk about practicing your aim labs, your Kovacs. Like, this is something that is heavily pressured by a lot of the top players, and they don't do it on purpose. They don't go out there telling you to, like, you know, you better go fucking practice your aim. No, they don't do that shit. But they have like aim labs as a sponsor. A lot of them have Kovacs as a sponsor, and just the overall way they play, like I said, projects a bad image of how Rainbow Six is actually supposed to be played. Like, a lot of these younger players don't know, or they don't see the fundamentals that this high level player already has, and they just think that these mechanics are carrying them, and that's not the case. And there are a few examples of a really good FPS player being able to carry themselves on Siege. One example would be Shroud, but even then, Shroud played with a 5-stack of probably some of the most influential Siege YouTubers that literally it's their job to play Rainbow Six. So they know the game inside and out, and they gave Shroud all this info about how to play Rainbow Six, and that's what he learned. That's why he progressed at a rate that he did. He already had great mechanics, so he did not have to worry about that, but he also picks up games extremely fast. You know, he put in the time to learn angles, to learn characters. They asked him to play one character for a few rounds, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to play different characters. He wanted to play different roles. He tried roaming, he tried anchoring, he tried lurking. Like, Shroud is a prime example of the best of both worlds, where he knows his mechanics, he knows what he can do, he knows what he's capable of, but Shroud also is willing to learn the game inside and out. And I feel like I've been watching Shroud since, you know, I was younger, so I feel like that's where my influence comes from, because my main purpose in any game is to learn the game inside and out before I master any mechanics. Okay, that's the fundamental of any game. So Shroud is a very good example of that, and he should lead the example of what it is to actually progress at any game. So in conclusion, my answer to that question, and to anybody willing to improve, is that you should not be focusing on your mechanics. The first thing you should be learning is how to play the game. You should be watching high-level players play the game. That way you get a view on their tactics and their strategies, and you can probably see what you're doing wrong, to be honest. And it's probably something that's not even that big of a deal. Like, it might be like just not peeking, or it might be the way you peek. Like, you'll be surprised how much you learn from these good players. And that's a big thing about that. A good player sees the entire game differently from a low-level player. Their whole perspective on the game is different. A good example of this would be maybe Dead by Daylight. I don't know if you guys have played that, but in that game, whenever you first start off as a survivor and there's a killer running around, you're very scared to do anything. So you just kind of hide around. You know, you do your objectives, but you do it stealthily. But once you get better at the game and you realize how the mechanics of the game works, high-level players aren't afraid of the killer because they know that they can run away from him pretty successfully, right? So that's a good example of the big difference between perspectives on a high-level player versus a low-level player. Like, they really see the game differently, okay? They aren't scared of the killer, and they just go all out doing their objectives, and they aren't scared if they get chased because they know that they can get away. And the same is for Rainbow Six. You know, a good player might know what to peek, he knows what to expect, he knows what possible options they have to counter what he expects. And I feel like that's a big difference between these players. So make sure that if you do want to improve at Rainbow Six, you put in the hours first of all. You watch as many videos as you can, like tactics, strategies, even mechanics things. You know, just even if you don't want to do these mechanic things yet, you want to be able to know how you do it or what to expect when people do it. So that's also very important. But just try to get as much info as you possibly can. Watch as many different people as you can, because not one Rainbow Six player plays the same. Trust me, there's a lot of people that play similar, but nobody plays the same, okay? Their decision making and their justification for the choices they make are going to be much different. And you will get better at the game, okay? That's what I did. Even back in the day when everybody was bad, there were some players that excelled. Macy J was one of them, even though Macy J is not the most mechanically heavy player, but that goes to show you how much information is important. Macy J didn't have the best aim, he doesn't have the best mechanics, he doesn't always, you know, quick peek, one tap to the walls, you know, all that fancy shit, but he is able to carry himself to diamond almost every single season, and I think champ, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be a sign of how important information is, okay? He is a higher level than a lot of these crazy aim gods that you see on YouTube, so, you know, take that into consideration. Anyways, guys, this has been FPS Care. Thank you so much for sticking this long in the video. If you have, let me know what you guys think of these discussion videos. I really do like doing these. I like dissecting the game, like I said before, so I do like answering these questions and kind of giving my 2 cents on what I think the outcome and the answer is. So let me know in the comments. Anyways, if you guys liked the video, be sure to drop a like. Make sure to drop a dislike if you didn't like it. You know, if you really didn't enjoy it, that's fine. And make sure to leave a comment. Any more questions or topics that I can cover in the future, I would really, you know, appreciate it. Anyways, guys, I will see you all in the next video, and I do have a highlights video coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. I will see you all in the next video, boys. Take it easy.